Greetings all! Today we will be examining the relatively common ghost fire type Pokemon Litwick, the Candle Pokémon, its uncommon evolution Lampent, the Lamp Pokémon, and its final, exceptionally rare evolution Chandelure, the Luring Pokémon. Spooky at the very least, with a haunting presence unlike many others, the members of the Litwick family are life-stealing specters that can more than use the power of fire to scorch those they confront.
Litwick have small white bodies made from some sort of spiritual wax, with tiny arms like candle wax drippings, a small mouth-like structure on their face, and a single yellow eye visible on their main body. The top of their head has a light purple base with a brilliant ghostly bluish-violet flame that burns eternally on their form. The evolved form Lampent come in the form of a black, metal-like main head cap and torso with thin, wiry black arms that make them look like old-fashioned metal lamps. However, their head betrays this, as the glass-like form of it holds their eternal bluish-violet flame, as well as two yellow eyes on the outside that see all that pass by them. Their final evolution, Chandelier, continue with a black metal motif in appearance, with two large metallic arms that are host to curled ends and a pair of spectral candle holders on each limb that burn with the flame mentioned before. Their heads have an even larger flame burning on top, with a glassy purple main head with black lattice work and a pair of glowing yellow eyes, granting them both a terrifying and alluring form.
While many ghost types are able to utilize some form of pyrokinesis to attack others in battle, the members of the Litwick family are unique in that most of the energy they use for both their attacks and simply to sustain themselves is derived from pyrokinesis.
Instead of merely absorbing spiritual energy and processing it internally, these creatures literally burn spiritual energy with their bodies externally, with their flames growing brighter and more eerie the younger the source they burn said energy from, allowing them to systematically absorb the energy they actually need while burning away whatever spiritual energy may be too negative or otherwise toxic to use. This manipulation of fire is so intense that Litwick and their evolutions are considered to be partial fire types, giving them an interesting mix of advantages and disadvantages over other ghost types. Unfortunately, Pyrokinesis is not noted for its flexibility in terms of energy usage, and effectively forces these creatures to move rather slowly at first in order to conserve as much energy as possible. In exchange, however, they progressively gain the ability to process larger quantities of spiritual energy as they age, in turn making them among the most powerful fighters once they reach adulthood. This increased processing ability is equally followed by a progressively worsening change in temperament that many trainers find difficult to handle, particularly because of the inherent dangers present in simply being near one of these creatures. Nonetheless, the popularity is quite high among ghost-type specialists in many regions, who have no problem risking their life if it means doing fairly well in battle. As one might expect in their case, the intense flames that burn in their forms grant these creatures access to flash, fire, and flame body-based abilities, while those that are effective at using their powers to burn through most protective screens and barriers further grants them access to Infiltrator as a hidden ability. In looking at their stats, in the case of Chandelier, their physical forms do not have much to offer others, with limited stamina and physical attack strength, but they are otherwise rather mobile, having an above-average base speed stat for a fully evolved Ghost-type Pokemon, and about even or above-average base special defense stat for a fully evolved Ghost or Fire-type Pokemon, and definitely above-average base defense and special attack stats for a Pokemon of both of their types. In turn, they possess the highest base special attack stat out of all non-legendary and non-UB Fire and Ghost-type Pokemon, the latter tied with Cursula, making them a terrifying force to be reckoned with without extremely strong special defenses on one side.
Litwick cannot process much spiritual energy at any given time, and are thus limited in terms of both offensive capabilities and mobility, making them a difficult choice for many trainers to handle at first. The only real upside to this is that they are also the least dangerous member of their family to raise.
Since they cannot process energy very rapidly, Litwick need near constant exposure to life of some kind in order to maintain themselves. To compensate for the otherwise frightening appearance, which tends to scare others away, Litwick disguise themselves as candles and wait out in the open at night. When someone approaches them, either outside or within the confines of a building, Litwick will bring themselves to the attention of their prey and offer themselves as a light into the darkness, igniting the otherwise snuffed flame and exuding a warmness from their body as a result the moment they start to feed on spiritual energy in the air. This is nothing more than a clever ruse though, as Litwick will begin slowly absorbing spiritual energy directly from their prey as soon as they get close. while the amount absorbed is small, over extended periods of time, this can result in the infliction of headaches, illness, and even shorter lifespans in some cases. It has even been said that they will gladly escort lost children by hand into the spirit world, where they will never be seen again. As such, it is usually a good idea to ignore Litwick in the wild at all costs. Running shouldn't be much of a concern, as these creatures can barely hop around, let alone chase someone down. Lampent can process a considerably larger amount of spiritual energy than Litwick, and are thus not as restricted in terms of combat abilities or mobility, nor do they have to constantly take in spiritual energy to survive. The catch, however, is that when they do need to feed, they must feed off of a source that can provide a large amount of spiritual energy at one time. While morbid to most, Lampent have an easy solution to this problem. They simply absorb and burn the radiant energy given off by a life form when it dies. Upon dying, a life form naturally releases whatever remaining spiritual energy may be within in a concentrated burst, though whether or not something else is released at the same time is currently the subject of much debate. Lampent have learned to home in on a life form the moment it begins releasing vast quantities of spiritual energy, which signifies that a body is losing its ability to hold spiritual energy and is thus dying, so they do not lose out on too much energy. But by the time this starts to occur, the amount of energy left in a body is generally rather low. Even so, this requires very little to no effort on the Lampent's part to obtain, as they try to remain disguised as simple lamps, making it a fairly efficient manner of obtaining energy. Not surprisingly, this has made Lampent fairly populous among crowded cities, even to the point where they can be seen openly traveling down streets and into hospital buildings, searching for the soon-to-be deceased, and are thus viewed as an emissary of death by some.
Exposure to the radiant energy of a Duskstone mutates Lampent heavily and amplifies their mobility, defenses, and special abilities substantially upon evolving into Chandelure.
As with their pre-evolved forms, the amount of time Chandelier can go without needing to gather energy is highly dependent upon the amount of spiritual energy they can process at any given moment. In their particular case, the amount they can process is absolutely immense. In order to feed their powers and sustain themselves, Chandelier go one step above Lampent and don't wait until a life form dies before they burn their spiritual energy. Instead, they simply burn the energy while the victim is still alive. Chandelier will first attempt to hypnotize their prey by rhythmically waving their flaming arms back and forth. This is usually quite effective, but if it does not work, Chandelier will rely on their confuse ray technique to subdue their prey. Once the victim is under their control, Chandelier will use their immense spiritual power to forcefully wrench the spirit from their victim whole before burning it completely. This unimaginably painful process allows Chandelier to fuel their powers for several months or even years, depending on the size and vitality of the victim, without having to feed again, but it consequently renders the victim a spiritless husk with no ability to feel emotion at all, doomed to wander aimlessly in the world of the living for all eternity. Studies have shown that this process actually fries the limbic system of the prey just enough to render all but its most basic functions inoperable, in turn making it one of the few known cases where spiritual energy can potentially be linked to the physical world by traditional scientific methods. Regardless, this sort of irreversible damage is said to be a fate worse than death, so any encounter with a wild Chandelier is unlikely to be a good one. Even trainers must keep a careful eye on their Pokémon at all times, as Chandelier care little about who or what they attack, and will gladly burn the spirits of their trainers' friends and family alike in order to feed themselves. In fact, it is said that in houses that use Chandelier for illumination instead of traditional lights, funerals are a constant occurrence, though whether this is true or not remains to be seen.
Sometimes, ghosts can be scary, tricky, nasty, or just downright dangerous. And when it comes to the members of this family, they've got their spectral forms in just about every honeypot, with them becoming increasingly deadlier as they grow and evolve. Sure, at first a little candle isn't going to hurt much, maybe a day or two off your life at the most. But once you get up to Chandelier, you are literally playing with fire, and the worst kind ever. Burning the very spirits of others just for power? No, I am staying far away from them, even if they can be tamed to keep this behavior mostly under control. I can't knock them for their offensive might, as the power is incredible and never worth discounting, but they can be such a big risk to their own trainer's existence and those close to them that, if you ask me, they simply aren't safe for just anyone to try and train. Ghost types are always a pain and tricky to work with because of their spooky and scary attributes, so it takes a special kind of trainer to be able to handle them. If you feel brave enough to give it a shot, good luck, because you might need it, and a life insurance policy just in case.
Surprisingly elegant and yet a threat to nearly all, the members of the Litwick family are chilling yet fiery spirits that can more than bring hellfire from the spirit world onto anyone that stands against them. It might take some effort to get them into a fully evolved state, but the results more than show it to be worth the trouble.
Do yourself a favor, and if you find yourself lost in the woods or in an old building and try to reach for a light, be wary what you grab if you need a fire to light your way. If you find an object with a flame already lit, you might only be moments away from feeling the burn as you travel in the dark. The burn of your very essence being scorched out of existence.
Thank you all for watching this video. It is always a pleasure to help teach others about the world of Pokemon and the many facets of it that exist in both the world we call home and the world they call home. If you'd like, please leave a comment and subscribe and ring the bell to this channel to get regular updates on content and anything else that might be going on. You can find me and my written work on DeviantArt under the name Utitus, and be informed of information and content uploads on my Twitter page and my Patreon page. Donations are always welcome. Always remember, the world of Pokemon is a vast and varied place, and there's no telling what secrets might be hiding just around the corner. So keep watch, stay vigilant, and always prepare for the unexpected. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.